Hi, just me, just Bob. Down at the beach today, and thought I'd just make a video, I guess, just talk about some things. Uh, One of the things I wanted to talk about is that I've been talking about and continuing to talk about, probably get ad nauseum with some, but it's about energy, and again, but it's just to get people to understand it because we're coming to a time. I think it's going to be important that we understand how this all works because this duality we live in is all about energy moving. So whether you're uh, if you walking down the beach, like I found a rock, okay, so it's just a rock in itself. It's part of the beach, but yet it has no awareness of anything, so it's just a singularity. But as soon as I pick that rock up, it has all this potential energy stored in it. Its mass, its shape. Um, all we have to do is introduce something, an intention of what you want to do with this rock. If you wanted to energize or to use that energy that's stored in it, is to pick it up, pick a target, and throw it. The motion that I put into that, the velocity, now intensifies the inertia and energy that's stored in this rock. Its weight, it's combined with the speed, gives it power. If it hits something, it's going to hurt or make a dent or a mark. So that's kind of what we have to always start to think about. Because if you look at all that's been going on, everything that's been happening has to do with energy, not the gas tank in your car energy. The energy of this, our civilization, our society, any of that is part of that energy that we are living in. We create it. Uh, it's what happens when everybody's field starts to migrate together and you start to break off into groups because you're of the same energy. Right now, that energy has just made a huge shift. And if you aren't paying attention to it, you should feel it because it's something you want to remember. But that shift is that we had an absolute divide in this country, or at least an apparent divide. And it was, we were locked in this deadlock. But it's always been there. The difference is that this other energy that has been dormant, like this rock, had no purpose until now. And that dormant energy is the 40% of all of us who don't get involved in politics. We don't want to know about it. We just vote for whoever sounds right. Or we typically we go and try and make a choice between two evils because they're both the same. So like the rock, until we cast a ballot, it's just an inert energy sitting there with potential. But now it's changing because we have this opportunity to make this energy go from being a dualistic mess where the two outside energies are compressing the middle that is totally neutral and dividing, trying to divide that. But our illustrious leader has now set in granite that knowledge that this is something none of us want. And those of us who don't want it have the majority. We have a major majority. Probably 70 to 80% of the population doesn't like what's happening. And that's not just in our country. The same thing is happening around the world. Um, Viktor Orban just got thrown out of office. A big Trump is a big fan of Orban. Well, that's because Orban is part of Putin, and Putin and Trump are part of the same thing too. I mean, it's no. He kept marrying women from the old Soviet Union. So he wants to restore that kind of power, but he wants his family to be in charge. This we don't like. It's against our very thought of who we are. So if we don't do something, it's going to persist. And that something we have to do is to get those two coins, or those two faces of the coin, the heads and the tails, to become just that, an imprint on something that has no real power unless you decide that heads is the winner and tails is the loser. So if we take back that power and take back this ability for political parties to run the government, they're great to influence how we want to think, make sure that both of us, both sides, everybody has the same information, but that's been distorted now. That old iron curtain type mentality that is being forced upon us by this, I don't know what you would call it, cabal or whatever it is that these billionaires have created and brainwashed certain people to believe it, and locked up a whole religious movement and turned it into a fascist organization. That is what we are fighting against now. This has nothing to do with party anymore. This has to do with humanity. How do we take back this country that is supposed to be for the people and by the people and of the people if we can't get together as a people? So the political parties is not where we need to put our faith and our money. They need to start answering to us, because we keep voting on them in for what they tell us they're going to do, and they do nothing but line the pockets of the wealthy. Both parties are guilty as hell. You can't be sending people to Congress and into the Senate and into the White House and anywhere else in government and have them go in representing people who aren't millionaires. And when these people get out of office, they are millionaires. So there's something broken here, and it's time we take it back. We need to form a singularity, and that is not a political party, but a movement to take it back. And all we want to do is, we're not going to say, oh, you'd be a good candidate, we're going to support you. No. We're going to tell those parties to do what they're supposed to do and to weed out the chaff. Find the best candidate to do the job of representing the people. Not representing the party, not representing some industry, not representing billionaires, not even representing just the homeless or the low income or any of that. It's got to be equal. Representation at the top and the bottom have to be equal. And you can't tax people on the money they make and then tax them again on the money they spend, while the people at the top aren't paying any taxes at all. And it's all inherited wealth. None of them earned it, or at least 90% of that 1% that's up there didn't earn it. They fell into it. Now they're on the trust fund wagon. And guys like Warren Buffett, they said he's putting a stop to it. Each one of his kids get $1 million when he dies. That's it. Well, that's a damn good nest egg to build off of, more than he had. Gates is the same way. His family's, they're not going to get a windfall. I met Bill Gates, and I also met his father. His father was a prominent attorney here in Seattle. So those people are different than us, regular, everyday working people. And in the 50s, we had a pretty good grip on that, because I was brought up, my mother wouldn't pick a party. She voted Democrat almost all the time, but she declared herself as being fiscally Republican and socially Democrat. And that was a good idea, because the Republicans inherently were money watchers. They were the accountants and everybody, the business owners, people who knew how to handle money and capitalism. And we would put them to safeguard us so we don't have another 1929. And that was really working well. The fly in the ointment was that we started hiring, instead of learned politicians who had degrees in political science and in law, we started hiring actors. And when social media came up, everybody was now an actor. And nobody had any knowledge to back it up with. So we need to take something that is inert, and that would be the government right now. It's not working for us. It's only working for those who we put in there. They are all self-absorbed. And all they do when they get to office is want to start running for the next election and get money. Well, we need to put limits. We need to put limits on the money they spend, the money they earn, where they can invest their money when they're in office, what information they can have and they can't have outside of their office. And if they take anything out of that office, it is property of the people, not of them to use in some manner they want to use. And you can't go tearing down the East Wing without getting permission. You're going to get a hell of a bill for that thing in the end. When the Democrats come back in, we're going to make them pay for that thing. And that's part of the problem. We're back into judgment and punishment. And that's part of that partisan bullshit that they use to keep us following the line. We're no different than the Soviet Union. It's just that we have perceived freedoms to cross the border and leave and do things. Well, those freedoms come at a cost. And the cost is this kind of a government that is all pretty much false on the outside, trying to tell us that we are something we really aren't. But we have the ability to know what it is we are, and to know what it is we aren't, and what it is we want and what we don't want. And this is what one of the messages I am trying to get out, is that the people have to come and unite. I keep seeing this teeter-totter in my mind when we were a kid. And you could, you get a kid on one side, and then another one gets on the other side. Well, it's kind of got to be careful a little bit loading up on that thing, because the favorite thing we would do is we'd take it and put it down, and then the other kid would climb up there and sit on the other side of it, and then we'd jump off, and he'd drop to the ground real quick. Well, as long as it wasn't some heavier kid, it was funny, I guess. But anyway, that fulcrum in the middle and the balancing of that teeter-totter has a big impression on me, because that is what it's supposed to be. The government is the fulcrum. The parties are just information in a perspective to look at. The parties cannot come on board that teeter-totter and try and weight down one side versus the other just to win. If they haven't got a story to give us that's factual and that is going to be beneficial to us, don't bring it, because we will not pass it. We won't vote you in just to support a party. That's where we need to get. That's the energy that's sitting in this rock. And until we get off our ass and put some energy behind it and have it hit something hard, we might as well just go home and sit and wait for that retirement check that ain't going to probably come in another 10 years from now. We got to take it back, and we got to do it now. Sorry to get so political, but it's not actually political, because I'm not saying one side's worse than the other. They're both trying to show us something that we don't want. So what we have to do is tell them what we do want. And we do that by throwing them out, or at least threatening to throw them all out, and replace them with somebody that says, I'm not a party member. And when I stand at the front door of this Congress, if you elect me, when I go through that door, there is no party. The Speaker of the House is elected by the entire Congress, and it always comes down to whoever has that one extra vote. That's got to stop. There's not a single vote there for the people. It's all for the party. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Have a good day. Leave a message if you like it or you don't. Whatever. I'd love to hear about it. Have a good one.